Me too.
What he did. I thought, but when he didn't start the second one, that was very telling to me that Brian Hoyer is going to be the starting quarterback in week 1 of this season, because I mean, and obviously last night, Coach Pettin in his radio speech, he talked about how if something happened and they decided to go with Manziel, then obviously he would start game 3 and they would move ahead to get him ready. But I think the fact that he's a rookie and the fact that he's facing, a tough first couple of games in the first few weeks of the season, and the fact that week 3 of the preseason would be the first one that you put him out there with the ones. I don't know that 2 weeks is enough time to coach him up and get him ready for week 1. So kind of tells me that this quarterback competition is over. Do you have the same feeling?
I do too, although I do feel that way, although it does seem like they haven't been, stringing us along. It does seem like they've been legitimately trying to give guys, an equal amount of reps, because, ultimately when you make that decision, you're like, okay, we're going to install this offense, or we're going to base it around this quarterback, because it's 2 different systems. If you're going to go 100% with Manziel, you got to really change up the playbook and stuff and tailor towards his needs. Otherwise, you're going to do towards Hoyer. So it does seem like, if they had made that decision, then I think they would be going full tilt, installing that entire offense right now. But so I think in their minds, they are still giving him a legitimate chance.
No. But up until now, I do believe now, at the end of this week, with the way things have gone, they have left him one last opportunity to blow them away. And if he goes and does that Monday, then we got to revisit this on Tuesday. But I do believe that for all intents and purposes, short of that it is now this week, it's over. They've said, man, it was close, but at the end of the day, you didn't do enough to move the incumbent guy out of the way. So we're going to start getting ready on Tuesday, and I expect them to make the announcement on Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever guy it is. And like I said, this all changes if on Tuesday morning we're going, did you see what Johnny did in the first quarter last night? Maybe we need to talk about changing some things, and that's a good thing for all of us. Hey, the best quarterback is what all of us should want, not the guy you like, the best quarterback. I'm telling you, and that will show itself eventually. It'll either show itself now or later, and then later you look back and you go, the Browns screwed that whole thing up from the beginning, or the other way, looks like they did it just right. And I will go back to what I've said all week, and I don't know if you guys believe this or not, but I've said this all week. Losing this quarterback competition could be the best thing for John Manziel's football career, because we know how it started. We know how he had, regardless of what the Browns say, they've made some comments about things that could have been, and he has, things that could have been done differently. If he doesn't walk into week 1 as the starter, he knows damn well what he's got to do 12 months from now to walk in as the starter, not just next year, but in every training camp he's ever in. That is a huge lesson for a guy like that to learn. So for people that go, oh, you got to give it to him, man, especially if you're worried a little bit about the entitlement and all that, that goes away when you have all this talent and the whole world wants you to play, and you lost the job to a guy that half the national reporters don't even know who he is because they've never actually seen him play football. That is a humbling experience. And if I'm John Manziel, and I think that I'm great, because every quarterback has to believe that they are great and that they are great quarterback. If I'm John Manziel, I'm going home and saying, this is my fault. I let that Hoyer guy back in the conversation, and I didn't finish the job. You watch what I do next year. And then he comes in and owns the offseason and owns training camp, and baby, go to work.
That would be a great case scenario, because that would mean that Hoyer has been the starter all the way through. And we talk a lot, even in baseball, we talk about who's going to start start the season as the starter. But as we know, you're almost always going to need everybody. And if Hoyer stays healthy for all 16 games and effective enough to start all 16 games, then that is a great problem to have. Of course, we'll see Manziel a little bit here and there, but that means something's going very, very right. That means he's doing well. That means the running game is taking the pressure off of Hoyer, and we've got a chance to maybe be 8-8 if Hoyer's going to play all these games. But if he's not going to be able to stay healthy, and it's very difficult for any NFL quarterback to stay healthy all the way through, then we're going to see Manziel. He's going to be out there. He's going to have to be out there, and it's going to be ready or not. And then if he feels like he's the best, he'll be able to show us that.
Absolutely, brother. And like you said, the key is, at the end of the day, it's the Browns, man. Like, whichever one ends up being the best. Trust me, I don't care who I like and don't like. And I told you guys, John Manziel has actually grown on me in training camp. Like, I was very much not a fan of his, and I'm still not a big fan, but I do like the growth that I've seen day to day in camp. And I do like the fact that he did, once it got down to football, he got down to football too. I don't like the stuff before, and I truly believe that that's what opened the door for him not to win this job, man, because if he'd have been nose to the grind from the beginning, this team would have handed him that job. They would have acted like they didn't, but they would have handed him that job, you know. And I believe that's a part of it, you know. But he has grown on me. Like, I'm not sitting here saying there's no way, but man, some of the things that I saw in the first game, I said, look, this guy's got a lot to work on. Otherwise, man, he will be a flash in the pan. Even if he hits the league running, he will be a flash in the pan because he will not have a long-term career. What good does being a supernova be if you're hot for a year or 2 years and then the rest of your career you're not? And I don't, RG3 is not a good example because he hasn't had the chance to fully bounce back yet, but I'm just saying that supernova happened so much in the NFL. How many years do we talk about a guy and then 3 years later you forgot that guy was even in the league because he's out, he's done, he's hurt and he's gone and whatever. Not just quarterbacks, everywhere across the board. There's tons of them, so there's a lot. And if you're a Manziel guy and you don't have concerns for some of the problems that he has, then you're wrong too, because he's got to fix some things for his own long-term longevity. Yeah, that's great. He showed that he knew how to slide, but there's a difference between doing it once in 3 times that you get hit. You need to do it once in every time. And plus, there's, you know what I'm saying, man. So yeah. At the end of the day, all of this, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but the Browns have done what they've done. And I'll tell you what, I will definitely take Bruce up on that bet right there. I would definitely put some stakes to that. I don't know what the Browns record is going to be this year, and I don't know what the Steelers are, but I think the Browns finish with a better season than the Steelers this year. I do. I believe that the Steelers are truly on their downswing, and I believe that Cincinnati and Baltimore are both the 2 leaders in this division this year. I know people are going to go, but the Browns, and I think the Browns can do some work this year. We'll see what the defense can do. But this is Baltimore and Cincinnati's division this year, as far as I'm concerned, with the Browns and Pittsburgh fighting to try to make it a competitive division. But I think if we were picking an order of finish, I would put the Steelers 4th in this division, looking at things now.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you with that, because I think that, if you're going to make it all the way to the top, you got to start by leapfrogging somebody, and I think that's going to be the Steelers. And I think the Browns, on the strength of their defense, will be able to do that. Again, if they can limit their mistakes, and again, if they can allow the running game to lead the charge offensively, no matter who's the quarterback, if we can have a good, effective running game and a strong defense, that's the formula for winning football right there. And I think we can certainly beat out the Steelers. Hopefully we can actually beat them once, if not twice this year. But, that's what, you're ultimately going to have that. And especially I think the defense is going to be what carries the Browns up the ladder. And it's just a matter of, are they going to perform as well during the regular season as they look so far on paper in training camp? Because right now it's looking like a great defense.
Well, and the running game that you mentioned, that's the thing to me. That's why I say what I say about, the Browns as far as in the division and with Pittsburgh here. I believe the difference this year to last year, the biggest difference of all, there's still going to be questions offensively with the passing game, and we know that. The running game that we've mentioned, I just believe that having had a running game is going to make a difference for this team, because that term didn't exist you talk about playing with a limited playbook. Hell, the Browns played with a half a playbook last year, because I swear we only ran like once a game just to keep you honest, I guess. We'd say, we'll actually hand the ball off 3 times in this game, but there was no running game that was the Browns. That was excuse too. Well, remember Chud would come out every week and say, well, you know what? It's okay if we only average 1.3 yards a carry. We still ran the ball 25 times because you still got to keep them honest. And I'm like, no, man, that adds up to 25.75 yards, brother. That ain't keeping nobody honest.
Right.
So they have I do believe they have a potent, a better offensive line. I do like the zone blocking scheme. Some people say that it's good for the regular season and it breaks down when you get to the playoffs and you play the better defensive teams, because some people think it's a softer scheme, and there is some to that, like as we've seen, but we've seen it be all the way successful too. So I do believe that that's a good blocking scheme. But the biggest difference with the running attack is that they run forward. That's it. You and I have talked about that. These guys run straight ahead. They actually get through the line and don't dance around at the line. I saw the word Kraken in the chat room there. Know who the Kraken was, talking about Trent Richardson. But that's the biggest difference for the Browns there, is going to be having a running game no matter who the quarterback is. If that is what I think it is, which I think it's going to be a strength of the team this year, then you really minimize the impact of either quarterback.
Right, because that was one of the reasons why we lost so many leads in the second half last year, is because we didn't have the running game that could move the chains and eat up the clock and preserve some of these leads. We would run the ball once into the line, and then we'd be throwing on second down and third down, and then before you know it, the other team has the ball back. So that's going to be something that is going to be hopefully instrumental in this team. It's funny how you mentioned, people say that the zone blocking doesn't work well in the playoffs. Well, boy, I'd love to run into that problem. If that happens to us, then at least that means we're in the playoffs. Like, boy, I hope we can find that out firsthand. That would really be a great problem to have.
That's a good point. Let's get to the playoffs and let's have that problem, and then we can talk about fixing that for next year. But
right.
But no, that is one of the complaints that I hear about that scheme. But I like it, and it does seem like the personnel here with the offensive line. I know there's still a little bit of competition to shake out with what the actual 5-guy makeup is going to be. And how about, by the way, speaking of Greco, we didn't talk about it because we were gone Monday and Tuesday, so we didn't talk about the play-to-play stuff from the game. But that block, that pancake block when he laid dude out flat. Did you know what I'm talking about from the Detroit game, man, when Greco just plowed dude was closing in and he said, "No, you're not." I'll tell you what, I like to see it, but that's what I like to see. That offensive line that is going to hit you from the beginning of the play to the end, not just for the first 5 seconds.
Right, that's going to be very nice. And it's amazing how, how this line has worked out so well so far. And, just overall, you talk about the level of talent, and we compare it to the last few years. If you look at the guys that we've drafted this year, of course, you've got Manziel competing for a starting job. You've got Bitonio, who's pretty much got the starting job already. And then, of course, you have Justin Gilbert, who's fighting with Buster Screen for a starting job, and Kirksey's fighting for a starting job. So you got your top 4 draft picks who are either starting or actively competing for a starting job. And that's light years ahead of some of the past drafts that we've had over the last 5 years.
Bro, I was talking to a couple of people that I really trust their opinions in the last few days, and I said, I know we got a lot to see, but doesn't your gut tell you that this may be the best Browns draft class in quite some time? I'm not saying they're Hall of Fame guy. What I'm saying is just an actual draft class where most of them turn out to be decent to good NFL players. The Browns haven't done that in 15 years.
Yeah, and that's what you need to build a winning team. You talk about teams like the Seahawks. You talk about teams in the past like the Giants. The Giants would get guys up and down the draft, 7th rounder. The Patriots, of course. The Patriots, everybody in their draft would work out well. They'd get some kind of a roster spot, and they have this good young homegrown team that they all come up in the same system. A very deep draft, and that's what you really have to do. And you can do that 2 or 3 years in a row. Then you're in really great shape.
Exactly, and like I said, they've still got to work themselves out. We'll see how they do, and I'm telling you, I think Bitonio, man, in as far as value from where he's picked, was probably the best pick of the draft here. And what we're seeing, I mean, not often is an offensive lineman drafted out of the first round. No, I'm not going to say that. Sometimes it does happen, but to be plugged right in those situations, you really do have to be at a higher level. You know what I mean? And he has plugged himself right in there and been able to go. And, again, with Greco and having – and I liked the signing of McQuiston. We talked about that. So I saw Charles in the chat room too. Hey, no disrespect to Obi. His hit was good too. Obi's like, listen, I'm not playing on offense. I'm going to hit somebody on special teams today. I got to show up on this tape somehow, man. And he did. I'll tell you, there's another one too. Gray that's interesting because I like him coming out of the backfield. I liked what he did.
Oh, yeah.
We saw the little pass, the long run, catch and run with Hoyer early in the game. I like him. He's a big target. He's got the hands of a tight end. He can block. He's good hybrid for that position. Problem is that squeezes Obi. I love Obaniah. That dude, I put Obi in a category with a guy like Rubin. Those guys have survived regime change.